We're troubleshooting the QEMU i386 could not open ld-linux.so.2 error. This error typically pops up when you're trying to run a Linux kernel image using QEMU's i386 architecture emulation and it can't find a crucial library file. Let's go through the common causes and fixes. 1. Missing or incorrectly located ld-linux.so.2. This is the most frequent culprit. The error message clearly indicates QEMU can't locate the ld-linux.so.2 library, which is a dynamic linker required for booting many Linux kernel images, particularly those built for older systems or using specific bootloaders like Lilo. Ensure you've downloaded the appropriate kernel image and that it includes the necessary library. The library is often bundled with the kernel image or in a separate archive provided with the kernel source code. You may need to extract the library from the archive if it's in a compressed format, like a .tar.gz or .zip file, and then correctly locate it in the same directory as your kernel image or in a directory specified by the L option of QEMU, more on that below. Double-check the file name's spelling in case. Linux is case-sensitive. 2. Incorrect QEMU command line options. QEMU's command line syntax is important. If you're specifying the path to your kernel using the hash kernel or similar option, ensure that the path is absolutely correct. The same applies if you're using the -l option to specify the directory containing the ld-linux.so.2 library. For example, instead of QEMU system i386, kernel vm-linux, you might need a fully qualified path such as QEMU system i386 kernel, home user downloads vm-linux. A typo in the path is a common error. 3. Incompatible kernel image. The kernel image you're trying to boot might be incompatible with the i386 architecture emulation of QEMU, or it may be built for a different architecture or a different kernel version. You'll need to download a kernel image that's specifically designed for i386 and is compatible with your selected bootloader. 4. Missing dependencies. While less common for this specific error, other system libraries may be needed for QEMU's operation, or for the proper execution of the kernel image. This might require installing additional packages using your distribution's package manager, like apt on Debian Ubuntu or yum on CentOS RHL. Use your distribution's package manager to ensure that any dependencies for QEMU and your chosen kernel are correctly installed. 5. Permissions issues. Make sure you have the necessary read permissions to access the ld-linux.so.2 image file and the kernel image. If the file permissions are restricted, you might encounter this error. Check file permissions using the else alt l command in your terminal, and use QEMU to modify the permissions if needed. Remember to always double-check the paths, file names, and dependencies before running QEMU. If you've checked all these points and are still experiencing problems, provide the complete QEMU command line you're using and details about your kernel image and operating system to facilitate more specific